everyone, my name is Von Shay Wise. I go by Shay, and for this assignment I chose an informed consent document that is from Austin Professional Counseling. This is actually in Austin, Texas, and I live in Delaware. So I chose a sample that was different than my state so that I could kind of see the differences on what they have in their consent form, informed consent form, and what is required in Delaware. Unfortunately, I could not find any laws on the internet for what is required for the informed consent form for Delaware. And I'm not sure if that's because our state is so small, so they just kind of rely on the code of ethics or how that works, or if they are somewhere in, I guess, a more private way of finding it. But going on, I made some notes throughout the document. It's a pretty lengthy document. It's about 6 pages, and so I made some notes throughout it of things that I liked, things that I saw that matched what the code of ethics say that we should do, and then also some things that I had questions on. So the first thing that I kind of had a question about was about referrals, because the first thing this document talks about is basically the art of the therapeutic alliance and how it's important to find a good match in a counselor and client relationship, and that's one of the most important factors in a counseling relationship. I also read and I'll read this straight from the document. It says, "A good match is so important to therapy that I will not hesitate to refer others out of respect for this process being of the most beneficial to you." So I thought that was kind of odd, being that I know so far in my journey of this master's program, I have learned that we should not refer just out of not being a good fit or not being a good match, or for reasons of counselor incompetence. So with that being said, I thought it was a little, I guess, concerning that it seems that this counselor is so open to referrals and referring out. If there's some sort of incompetence, we should be searching within ourselves to be competent enough to serve this client. So that was something that I kind of had a question about, but there were a lot of things in this document that I really did like. One of those things were that the document talks about discontinuing services. So it talks about how to go about discontinuing services, and basically to come talk to the counselor first to see if it's something that they can work out, something that they can move past, and that a lot of times counseling can be hard work. It's a lot of effort to dig deep and go through personal issues and things like that, and that discontinuing services may not always be the best option. I like that that was included because it lets the counselor know that sometimes you may feel this way, but just to come talk to the professional first before deciding not to show up for appointments or to cancel appointments. Something else that I liked was that he did go through the procedures and how therapy works in this document, which is also mentioned in the code of ethics that we should include in an informed consent document. There's also a multicultural awareness statement, which I really liked because it shows inclusion and that this counselor is open to different races and cultures and genders and sexual orientations and things like that. Another good point that this informed consent statement mentions is confidentiality. And then included in confidentiality is also the exceptions to that, to those confidentiality laws as mandated by the state of Texas, and that is required by section B1C of the Code of Ethics. So I thought that was really a good thing to include. It's a pretty lengthy section as well, which I think is important to kind of go over all of those different, I guess, laws that are required when it comes to confidentiality, what is included and what isn't. And then A couple of things that I realized that was missing that I think I would like to know as a client is about diagnosing and how important diagnosing is, and that it's basically going to be on your record indefinitely once you are diagnosed. I think that's something extremely important for potential clients to know and understand when going into counseling, so they have that in the back of their mind when it comes to assessment and diagnosing. And then I also would like to see more information about technology, especially with technology being so prevalent these days. With the COVID pandemic that we just had, I'm sure a lot more people are using telehealth options instead of actually going in person. So I believe that that is something extremely important to notate if it is something that the counselor is willing to provide. And then there was also a miscellaneous section, and this is something that I thought was really cool because I have not read about it yet. But in this miscellaneous section, the counselor talked about what would happen if the counselor and the client ran into each other in public. And basically what he said is that he would not go up and acknowledge the client unless the client came to him to acknowledge him first, out of just confidentiality and privacy and things of that nature. But I thought that was a really cool statement to include, because I know that that can be somewhat awkward. I know in my job now, when I see clients that I've worked with in public, it's always a somewhat an awkward kind of situation. So I like that that was included and discussed beforehand. But overall, I thought this was a really good, really well written document that included a lot of information, and it was a good example for me of what an informed consent document should look like. Thank you. Bye.